Hello, this is Jenny, and I'm doing my AP Environmental Science finals project on ocean pollution and how we can remediate it. So, this is Chapel Hill. We are a very tiny speck on the globe, but if you lay the globe out, you can see that land overall is just a very tiny portion of Earth. About 70% of Earth is oceans, and oceans are a very important part of our ecosystem.
Far into the 20th century, people thought that the sea was infinite in its capacity to yield whatever we wanted to take from it, and accept whatever we disposed of there. Over the years, hundreds of millions of tons of ocean wildlife have been extracted, and hundreds of millions of tons of noxious waste have been put into the sea. Industrial fishing has depleted fish and other ocean wildlife, some nearly to extinction. Many large and even small species of creatures have declined by more than 90% in half a century. Trawls and nets scrape the seafloor to catch shrimp and bottom-dwelling fish, scallops and oysters. They're the equivalent of using bulldozers to catch songbirds and squirrels. Pollutants from agriculture, industrial waste, and sewage have seeped into the ocean, accumulating in marine organisms, even in the icy waters of the Arctic and the Antarctic. More than 300 dead zones now darken coastal areas worldwide. Plastic debris is dumped in such quantities that a huge floating mass of garbage twice the size of Texas has formed in the Pacific, and plastic clogs the shores of even remote Pacific islands. The construction of coastal cities has brought about the loss of coral reefs, mangrove forests, and vast wetlands, and the birds and marine life that once thrived there. Recent changes in the ocean are compounding the impacts of global warming. And in turn, climate change, increasing sea level, and acidification are altering the nature of the ocean. Now we know. One of the great discoveries of our time is that there are limits to what we can take out and what we can put in without dire consequences to the nature of the ocean, and thus to the underpinnings of what makes life possible for us. Now that we know, we can do what it takes to reverse the troubling trends, to treat the ocean as if our lives depend on it. Because they do.
The ocean has many zones: the intertidal zone, the Nearctic zone, and the oceanic zone, also known as the pelagic zone. As seen in the previous dance video, there are many environmental issues concerning the ocean, but today we're going to focus on some of the major issues concerning these three oceanic zones. First, let's look at the intertidal zone. So there's the salt marsh, which is basically a bunch of grass in brackish water. And brackish water basically means kind of salty, kind of fresh water. And this is what an actual salt marsh looks like. Another type of coastal wetland is the mangrove forest. And these are characterized by kind of like tropical forest-like trees that have really, really long root structures that go into the water. And this is what a mangrove forest looks like. Salt marshes are mostly in colder places. Okay, not cold enough for snow, but definitely cold colder than mangrove forests, whereas mangrove forests are mostly in tropical areas, like where you would find pineapples. You're probably thinking, why are coastal wetlands important? Firstly, they help with flood protection. So imagine that there's a wetland and then there's a storm coming in. There's a huge, gigantic wave, and then it crashes in, and the person is really scared, but the person isn't really that affected. But why? So this is because that the wetland takes most of the impact from the storm, leaving the inland areas more protected. They are also a very important wildlife habitat. For example, they provide places to stay for migratory birds, as well as functioning as a nursery for a lot of baby animals because there's a lot of places for little animals to hide. Coastal wetlands comprise about 10% of the nation's land area, but they support almost 3/4 of our migratory birds, about 80% of fish and shellfish, and almost 50% of our threatened and endangered species. They're also great for our commercial fisheries. In 2012, crab, shrimp, and lobster gained from coastal wetlands combined to help the United States to get about $1.6 billion. Sadly, more than 80,000 acres of coastal wetlands are being lost on average each year. There are many reasons for that. So, one of the first reasons are runoff from agriculture and such, and causes pollution to the wetlands. And another is that wetlands are constantly being urbanized for us to build beautiful cities. Now let's talk about the Neuritic Zone, in which the famous coral reefs lie. So, as everyone knows, coral reefs are beautiful places. They are very important habitats. About 32 of the 34 recognized animal phyla are found in coral reefs, as compared to the 9 phyla that are found in tropical rainforests. They're home to about 1/4 of all known marine fish species. Sadly, about 58% of the world's coral reefs are threatened by human activities. One of the biggest problems for coral reefs is ocean temperature rising. So as ocean temperature rises, zooxanthellae, tiny microscopic organisms that do photosynthesis and provide food for the coral polyps, get expelled from the coral polyps and cause the corals to die and turn white. So this is called coral bleaching. Another reason for the destruction of coral reefs is unsustainable fishing practices, such as bottom trawling, in which fishermen drag huge nets along the seafloor to catch bottom-dwelling creatures, and this basically levels all the habitats on the seafloor, including coral reefs. Now let's talk about the pelagic zone. A lot of marine mammals live in the pelagic zone, and they use echolocation to locate food by sending sound waves through their melon, which is kind of their forehead area, and receiving the reflected sound waves kind of on their chin. However, the use of sonar by the Navy interferes with the echolocation and causes the dolphins to become confused, and sometimes may cause permanent hearing loss and even cause the dolphins or whales to strand themselves on the beaches because they cannot get a bearing of their surroundings. In January 2005, 34 whales of 3 different species became stranded and died along North Carolina's Outer Banks during nearby offshore Navy sonar training. Now let's talk about the problems in the Pacific Ocean. So there is a North Pacific subtropical gyre as well as one in the south. And what happens is trash moves around the ocean because of currents and such, and then they end up in these gyres. and the motion of the water in these showers prevent the garbage from escaping. And so while the trash is here, they get broken into smaller pieces, and in some parts of the ocean, there are higher concentration of plastic bits than phytoplankton. So this is really terrible because these increased concentration of plastic block the sunlight and decreases photosynthesis. For example, scientists can collect up to about 750,000 bits of plastic in a single kilometer. Sometimes animals mistake trash for food. For example, loggerhead turtles mistake plastic bags for their favorite food, which is jellyfish. And other times, animals can become tangled in the garbage. For example, a lot of animals get tangled in fishing wires. So, how can you help? Well, you can take action. Simple as that. Be sure to read more about oceans and pollution that affect oceans and environmental issues overall. The more you're educated, the more you can help. Be sure to eat sustainably. Do not eat fish that may have been caught with unsustainable practices. Never litter, especially don't throw away plastic because they don't biodegrade. Be sure to use fabric bags when you go shopping instead of plastic bags. You can reuse the fabric bags. You can participate in or organize a beach cleanup to make sure that no more trash ends up in the Pacific garbage patch. Most importantly, tell other people about what you know. Make sure more people are environmentally conscious about the ocean. And vote for environmentally friendly and laws and acts that will help us and help the environment.